Hey guys, welcome to TGS with me, Jonny. Today we're going to be talking about something that Corona will affect and has affected and will continue to affect long after it's gone, and that is the shooting season. And as much as that seems a little bit insignificant in a world where there's a lot of worse things happening at the moment, it will indeed affect all of us because it's a thing that we're all utterly passionate about. For that, I have arranged 2 Skype interviews, one with Howard Day of Outside Days Sporting Agents and one with Ant McClernand, Gamekeeper and Estate Manager, who you'll all know. And yeah, it's very interesting. So without further ado, let's crack on.
Frustrating times, obviously. No one quite knows what's going on. Everything for the next couple of months has been postponed or cancelled. Various events on and sim game days and stalking. And so, yeah, really not sure what's going to happen like everyone else.
I presume that has affected your business quite badly in that sense.
In that sense, it means no income for 2 months at least, and who knows how much longer.
So it takes us on to the big question of what is the season looking like? I mean, you obviously deal with more shoots than many people.
Yeah, I mean, it's very mixed at the moment. Obviously, I mean, one thing is to sort of look at it in a timescale point of view, and most shoots are being pushed by game farms now, obviously the first point of the chain, as to whether they're going to want their birds or not. Now, a lot of game farms I know are asking for bigger deposits up front. They're very cautious that they don't want to get birds on a field, having arranged to get eggs or day-olds over from France and Spain, to have them there as 6-week-old, 8-week-old poults and then not be able to have any shoot that wants to buy them. So they're getting very strong commitments, much stronger than normal off shoots, which is making shoots therefore look at what their options are. Currently, they fall into 3 distinct groups. I've got a number of shoots have decided to pull the plug on the season.
And that's involving getting rid of keepers as well, or are they just keeping?
No, I mean, most of them are saying it's a lot better for them to not spend 100,000 on birds, plus the feeding costs and everything else. They'll get the keeper doing fencing, forestry, whatever for 12 months. Possibly improving drives and doing habitat work he hasn't normally got time to do. And they'll just take a year off. And it's a lot cheaper to pay a keeper's wages for a year than it is to take the risk of buying all the birds in and then can't shoot.
And then £1 million on pheasants and feed.
So, I mean, there's that line of people being very cautious. I've got the other end of the extreme is, don't know what all the fuss is about, stop being so ridiculous, of course it'll all be okay. Which is a much more positive, pleasant viewpoint.
I think that's a very positive viewpoint, yeah.
I'm not entirely convinced how realistic it is.
Okay, well, we'll get on to that in a minute. I suppose what your thoughts are on the whole thing.
My thoughts are I'm cautiously optimistic, I guess is probably the best way of putting it. I think...
Well, you have to be for your own business, sort of.
Yeah, I mean, but obviously... I struggle to believe that we will still be in lockdown come December.
No, I mean, I think there will be a recovery period, but I would hope at least we'll get 2 decent months of the season, potentially a little bit more.
I mean, in September, yeah, we may well find that that's not going to work this year.
You think the grouse may be...
I mean, but the nice thing about grouse is obviously with no rearing and releasing of birds... as we see every season, the call is made a fortnight before the date you're about to shoot anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one of the other issues that someone brought up slightly tongue-in-cheek is particularly in the south of England, most teams of beaters are average age is over 70.
Yeah.
So whether
serious restriction on their movements.
Yeah. But, I mean, I would like to think we will get some of the season away. Whether we get all of it, that I'm slightly cautious about.
From a business standpoint, this is the time of year you usually take bookings as well, or are starting to take bookings. Are people wanting to buy shooting still, or is it quiet?
This year, very good early start. I mean, come in January and February, we've sold a lot of shooting, probably more than normal. Very buoyant market for it. March, yeah, about normal. The problem now is getting people to part with deposits. And again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, that impacts on shoots buying birds and the confidence that the shoot has. Basically, part of our problem is that we haven't seen anyone come out of a lockdown yet. We've seen people going into them 2-3 weeks in front of us, so we get an idea of what's going to happen there. We have no idea yet what coming out of one is going to look like, and how long that will last, and what restrictions there are going to be, and everything else. And that, I mean, I think the bottom line is, it's not that we don't know; it's no one knows. And the government and the health advisors and the NHS and all the health services around the world are all doing the best they can, but this is a totally unique situation, really. And then so the future is so uncertain that people just don't know what to do. But I think my feeling is, if guns are prepared to have a bit of a flutter, put their 50% deposit down, if they know they're going to get 25% back if it all goes up the Swanee, or some shoots are saying, right, we'll carry it forward to the following season, the deposit, then I think guns or people that want to shoot have got to show that support of the shoots to keep things moving. Otherwise, more and more shoots will say, right, no birds down.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said there for guns who would usually go to the same shoots every year. Giving them your deposit as a matter of faith seems like the right thing to do, I think.
I agree.
Given that they've looked up for so long.
I mean, if you don't, what's the situation? Shoots are going to pull the plug, and then you're going to get no shooting this season at all.
Do you think the price of birds this season will be higher because of it?
As far as the price of birds, they are going to be what the prices are set for those that have paid the deposit. The prices are set now. That's the price they will pay.
Fantastic, Howard. Thank you very much.
No problem, Johnny. You take care of yourself and your family, mate.
You too, mate.
So from what I picked up from Howard there, it's not going to be a good year for sporting agents. It's certainly not going to be a good year for foreign sport as well. So a lot of that wealth that would be going out into other parts of the world will not be. A lot of stalkers have had their Robux cancelled, so there's not a lot of money coming in from foreign clients into that. And those people will still have to manage and look after those animals responsibly, or as best they can, until this is all over. But the scary thing is that ongoing lack of funds hopefully won't make people do silly things with their livestock, with their opportunities to try and get that money in the short term. My hope is truly that this government will sort something out for self-employed people, and fingers crossed they do, because, well, someone like Howard deserves the same as the rest of us, really, I think, anyway. The other thing that I picked up from Howard, which I found strange, is that everybody is apparently approaching this from different angles. Some shoots closing down, some doing half seasons, some doing full seasons, saying there's nothing to worry about. It's interesting how there's not a consensus of opinion there, but I guess that's all to do with your mindset, how much cash you got into the bank, and how you run your shoot anyway. And for a decent opinion on this, let's go to Ant.
Well, mate, what are your thoughts for the season?
At the moment, mate, not good as it stands with shooting anyway. You know, we're in a very lucky situation that we're going to be continuing to keep the keepers on, myself and Ryan. We're going to continue to do the conservation work and the habitat management work and the feeding and the predator control. But at the minute, it looks like we're not going to be shooting.
Is that scary to you? I'm sure it must be scary for others who aren't quite secure in their jobs.
Yeah, so for us, it's more the worry of being slightly bored.
Yeah.
But you know, it's more the guys who, you know, the commercial outlets that rely on an income from shooting each year that I think is going to be the real, you know, the real problem.
And have you heard of many shoots closing down or stopping this year?
Yeah, so far I've had some big names coming in, and not confirmed as yet. We're obviously Cocking, you know, one of the big ones down here. I got an email from them as we had a couple of days shooting booked with them, saying that they were cancelling this season.
Wow.
Goodwood Estate, Goodwood aren't shooting this year. You know, there's another keeper I know of that's been made redundant on a commercial outlet. Yeah, one of the bigger ones up in Yorkshire's cancelled. You know, it's not looking good up and down, mate. Whether it's an early panic or whether it's, you know, foresight into what's going to happen, then we don't know just yet.
Yes, it's reducing risk, isn't it, I suppose?
Well, that's it. I mean, it's looking at, you know, like I said, on a commercial basis, if you've got you've got to make money from what you do in the shooting industry, then you can't invest between £250,000 and £500,000 in a shoot and find that when we get to September that we're still not allowed to congregate or still not allowed to get out and do what we do.
So what is your prediction on that?
Fingers crossed, mate. It's all done and dusted by then. But I think the reason people are stopping now and pulling the plug early is more looking at it. It shows how much people think and how much shoot managers think about what we do. So it's more of an animal welfare issue. So for me, it's not the fact that can I get hold of my birds, because I can pretty much guarantee that I can get my birds. My birds would be going in the incubator next week. But it's more the fact of are we still going to be able to get the food for them? Are we still going to be able to get the medication for them? Are we still going to be able to get everything right for them? And I think that people looking at it in the right way would say there's no good going and buying those poults and putting them on the ground if you can't look after them correctly. And I think that speaks volumes for the shooting industry, don't you?
I think that's a very good point. I haven't really sort of contemplated that, actually. More to the point, if people can't afford to shoot them, having too many on the ground, period, throughout the entire season isn't going to be good for the population as a whole.
No, definitely not. And if you invest, like I said, £80,000 in poults this season, and even if you do feed them all the way through and get towards that shooting season and we can't shoot them, you've got a lot of money sitting in birds walking around the woods. Yeah. And how do you ever get that money back?
You try and keep as many for the next year, I suppose, but it rolls on, doesn't it? And trying to just isolate a single year is better than cocking up 2 years potentially.
Exactly. And if you look at, there's been some studies done on game birds kept to the following season. If you don't have a good worming program, you would lose 70% before the next season. So 70% of what you've got left is not too bad, but 70% of a whole year's supply put down is dire. Yeah,
I'm with you on that. Do you think game farms will struggle this year? Will that be a bump-on effect?
I think they will, mate. Yeah, I think from what I can hear, that the French boys have got a lot of eggs over here already. Because I don't know if you know, the Ocean have set up a huge hatchery in the south of England, and they've already got a lot of eggs over here.
They came over before the border closed, or can they still get them in?
At the minute, the word is that there's still free movement over the border of them. But it's more, the early birds are going to be there in supply, but then it's what happens for the birds that would be following for the next 8 weeks, 9 weeks,
Why do we get so many eggs from France?
Because they don't have the same, how do you put it, the same
restrictions?
Issues with people thinking it's not right.
Okay.
So they have the big laying farms over there with the 24-hour lighting put on the birds to bring the birds on earlier into lay. They keep them in laying cages, which obviously you've seen the bloody PR on laying cages over here. And it's thought of as a business over there and not how we feel of it over here, that it's just rich men's fun,
Whereas if it's a chicken, no one cares. Ironically, it's exactly the same questions.
Yeah. Where's the sense in that?
How has it affected your life, I suppose, as a keeper? How do you think this whole thing has affected keepers' lives? Can you still do your job?
Yeah, so if you look at it as in, we talk about key workers, and the agricultural sector comes under key workers. So technically, you can still go out and still do your job. And if you've got, if you've got animals to look after, then you've got a responsibility to be out there doing it. But I think it's common sense that you still got to isolate. You've still not got to go out. I mean, I haven't left the estate in 2 weeks, So yes, I am isolated, as in the fact that I haven't gone into town or I haven't left the estate, the grounds of the estate.
So I suppose it didn't really change your life that much, because you can at least luckily still go out, and you're luckier than some, I suppose.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. And it's more, it's looking at it in a sensible way. So, we're not doing the same chainsaw work that we were doing, or, we're not doing the big habitat management work that would be dangerous to do, because obviously we don't want to be injuring ourselves and taking a bed up for somebody that may need it. So it's more a case of, pottering around doing a bit of feeding and, doing some light work that's quite reasonably safe, if you like.
Yeah. Something interesting that Howard said was people are even reluctant to put deposits on shoots. would you be putting your money as a deposit on a shoot right now?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I think if you had the money to spare, then by all means, yes, you would take a punt on it and you would book your days. But I think from a working class background, you don't have the money spare to be able to throw it away.
You do see it as a bit of a gamble then?
Definitely, big time, mate, big time. And I think it's going to affect the price of pheasants this year. If we do get shooting, I think it's going to drive the price of pheasant shooting through the roof. Because obviously, if there's not the shoots out there putting birds down, they're going to be the ones that have got birds down and do get it away. If we can shoot, we'll charge through the roof for it because it'll be supply and demand.
It's a pretty bleak outlook from your point of view on the season ahead.
I think so, mate. But I think we've got to take the better side of it. You've got to look at this place. Like I said, the landowner's happy to be still paying 2 guys full time to continue with the habitat work and the conservation work and the feeding, when he's going to potentially get nothing back from it.
Yeah, and there's not many businesses out there that will continue to do that for an entire year. But shooting seems to be the one, from what you're saying. Not many keepers are being made redundant. They're just being put on conservation side of things only, as opposed to the bit that earns them their money.
Exactly. It's still going to cost us a substantial amount of money to keep the shoot in a reasonable state for the following season. But we're prepared to do that because we care about what we do and we care about the habitat and the shoot as a whole.
And there should be a few left over from last year, as well as a few wild ones that should, fingers crossed, make for something.
That's the approach we're taking at the moment. So we're taking the approach of let's look after what we've got. Let's do everything we can for what we've got. So we're going to still continue with the predator control in a heavy way. We're still going to put in the cover crops. We're still going to, feed up. We're going to start feeding again all year round as we've had a little break because we've topped all the game crops off. We're going to start feeding again straight away. And we're just going to try and do everything we can to try and get as many birds, from the wild stock as we possibly can, so that if we do find we have a few about and the season goes ahead, we can have a few smaller days and still have some sort of a social gathering and a shoot.
Sounds good. I think it's going to be certainly be a season that we both remember. I think we all remember, to be honest, whether that's for positive or negative reasons. They, as well as I do, they all kind of blend into one a little bit. Well, here's one that definitely won't blend in. I guess as much as we can say for it from I don't know, there's no particularly positive point of view to be had, is there?
Not really, mate. Not really. I mean, like I say, I think the only positive light we can take out of this is that we are going to continue to do what we do, even though we're going to get no benefit out of it for ourselves. We are going to keep doing the work. We are going to keep feeding. We are going to keep doing what we do. And that's only going to benefit the wildlife, Hopefully the bad people will, the antis and the opposite side will see this and see that, we're not such bad people who just go out for what we get. They're going to go out there and say, well, actually, these guys aren't just all about the murdering. They are actually about the wildlife. And they are actually about the countryside.
And all they've been doing all this time is justifying the expenditure, or at least bringing an income in to make up for the conservation expenditure, which is kind of what we all know anyway.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. It's interesting how, it's been interesting to see how people have frowned upon us and what we do for such a long time. And yet you look at the state of the supermarkets now with people buying everything out and, nothing on the shelves. Well, I've got two freezers full of game meat. I've got pheasants, I've got ducks, I've got venison, I've got sheep off the farm. I've got, we've got some beef coming in, shortly. We are actually not panic buying because we're naturally sourcing all of our food, which is, fantastic. It's not a case of going out there and rushing around and, making yourself into an idiot. We've been stockpiling for a long time now, mate, with sustainably sourced game meat that's better for you than what you buy off the shelf.
Right, thank you very much. Great source of information as always. Thank you very much for coming on.
It's great to see you, mate. We'll speak soon. Hopefully we'll see you soon.
Hopefully so, mate. It'd be nice to get out of the house.
So there's one positive takeaway from this ant conversation, and it stands out above all the rest. It's that most estates are keeping on their gamekeepers, and as such, the vital conservation work the gamekeepers do will continue to be done. However, that money that is usually there to compensate them for their work is not there. So it just goes to show that, as he said, we are not just vicious killers, we do genuinely care about the countryside. Would I put deposits down on a shoots? I think I would probably be tempted to. I would probably be tempted to. I mean, I don't shoot big enough days where that sort of money, if I lost it, would be the end of the world. And I do feel like for the good seasons, the quality of seasons I've had from some of the estates I've been to for the last few years, I owe it to them to actually put that money in their pocket and say, I believe in you and I will come and shoot. And if I lose that 25%, I feel like that's us putting where our mouth is for conservation. Although I do sympathise with Ant's point of view also, that I'm from a very, very working class background, that I don't have that money to waste. But I don't see it as a waste if it is going to help the keepers do their vital conservation work anyway. And I suppose that's the toss-up there, isn't it? What this season will look like, nobody really knows. But all I can say is, if there's anything anybody can do to help keepers out in this coming season, whether that's booking a day or, you know, just giving him a call right now, because actually I think there's a lot of people out there who are potentially a little bit worried for their jobs. So give a keeper a call, give a sporting agent a call, give somebody involved in the industry a call, just check on them, make sure they're alright, and if you can help in any way, please do so. This is a time for great community. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, chuck your opinion below as I said, and don't forget to be excellent to one another, because actually at this time, that's literally all we've got. Sat at home, give somebody a call, bring some happiness to the world, and don't be stupid or selfish. Bye bye.